Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Long time no see. So there is going to be a little bit of a life update with this video as well, but I am excited because I do get to finally come back to you guys. It has been a crazy last couple of months and I'm just really excited to get back into the swing of things. So the last time you guys saw me was in September, and it was right around I believe it was the Newts magical readathon, so that went great and whatnot. But in September I got some kind of like bad news from one of my doctors. So I have had ankle problems for the past 4-5 years now, and I went to my orthopedic and we figured out that I was having some issues with my ankle and I had to go to physical therapy for 6 weeks. I ended up doing great at that. My muscles were really good. However, I was having really bad joint pains. So my doctor actually sent me off for another MRI, and that MRI came back showing that I had part of my talar dome. I don't really know how to say that, y'all. This is about to get into medical jargon and you can totally skip it. But I just kind of want to give you not an excuse, but I want to give you a reason why I haven't been around for the last couple of months. But basically I had a bone in my foot that was kind of deteriorating, and it is the main cartilage in your ankle where your ankle meets your foot. And so that area like a couple of spots in that cartilage started to disintegrate, and basically I had to have a cartilage graft in my ankle to fix that. So I had surgery, ankle surgery, a week before Thanksgiving. Everything went great. I am currently in a lovely little boot now, and I have been graduated from my knee scooter that I was on for 6 months, and I'm currently on crutches, and I can walk without crutches as long as I'm not in a lot of pain. So that's basically what happened, y'all. I have had so many things going on that it's just like, when is the right time to actually sit down and start filming videos again? And we are finally there. We are in January, and what better way to start the new year than to start actually trying to get this channel up and running. So today we are going to be doing my 2019 wrap up. Even though I was still on my knee scooter, I still was able to get a lot of books read this year, and we're going to go through that, which I'm really excited about. So if you don't know, Goodreads does like a reading challenge every year, and you pledge a certain number of books that you're going to read, and every year they give you like kind of a rundown of what you completed. So I'm really excited because I actually did meet my goal this year. This is like the first year in a long time that I've actually been able to meet one of my goals, so I'm really excited. So let's go ahead and get into the wrap up for this year. This is probably going to be a lengthy video because I did read 80 books this year. And that is a really good number for me. I've had trouble in the past just reading 50 books. So the fact that I was able to read 80 this year, really excited. But let's just go ahead and get started. So obviously I said before, my reading goal this year was 75 books, and I surpassed that by 5. I read a total of 80, which the total page count of that was 19,809 pages, which is a lot, at least for me. My shortest book was 63 pages, and my longest book was 984 pages, and we'll get into that a little bit later on in the video. And then something Goodreads does is like it shows you what the most popular books were that you've read and other people have read, and then the least popular books that you've read and other people have read. So the most popular book that I read and also a lot of people read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and 281,445 other people read that book this year. So that was an insane number. And then one of my personal favorites that was actually a reread was the least popular, and that was Fighting for Her by K.S. Smith. Only 224 people read that along with me this year. It's one of my favorite books. Y'all go check it out. it's amazing. And then my average rating for all of the books that I read was a 4.0. I read some really good books this year. I read some not so good books this year, but let's just go ahead and get started into what I actually read this year. I'm not going to give you dates because that's going to be a whole mess in itself, but I will put a picture for you to see. So this is going to be fun for me to edit later, but at least you know what the covers look like. And yeah, so anyway, let's just go ahead and get started. Sorry about that, guys. I just got a phone call, so I needed to take that real quick. It is my physical therapy appointment that I have scheduled for Monday, so that's going to be fun. Again, ankle things that are happening, and hopefully I'll be up and running and be able to do a lot more things coming in the near future. But anyway, let's go ahead and get back into this video. So the first book that I ended up reading this year was Dirty Like Me by Jane Diamond. This was book 1 in the Dirty series. It is a rock star romance novel, and I've only read the first couple of books, and after I finished Dirty Like Me, I did read Dirty Like Brody, which is book 2. Both of these books were really good. Dirty Like Me I gave 4 stars, Dirty Like Brody I gave 5 stars. After that, I did a reread and I read Chose Us by Kaylee Marco, which I gave a 5 stars again because I loved that book. And I'm sorry if I'm going to be looking down because obviously I have to look to see which books I've read, and I want to give you like an accurate representation of what I did read. So after I read that, I read a physical book, which is Sinner's Creed by Kim Jones. This book made me bawl my eyes out like I was a 4-year-old baby. Like, oh my god. I ended up giving this 4 stars. There was some problematic things that I did have with it, but overall this book was really, really good. It is a motorcycle club type book, and it does have some crazy twists and turns, and at the end it's not a happy ending, and just fair warning. It is a very sad book, and I literally cried my eyes out. I have not read book 2. That is part of my 2020 goals that I want to read, books that I want to read. So I'll have a separate video for all of the books that I plan on reading in 2020, and hopefully I'll get to all of them. But this one, 4 out of 5 stars, absolutely loved it. So the next book I read was a book of the first book in a series that I have been wanting to read for a while, and that was another physical book, and that is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This one I only gave 3 stars. I was not a big fan of it. I think it had a lot to do with the main female character. I just didn't really like her. She was whiny a lot, and I just did not really connect with her. And honestly, you guys, the only reason why I finished this is because I loved The Darkling. And this book, I don't know. And I don't even know if I'm going to continue on with the series. The reason why I did pick this up is because it was only like $8 on Audible, and I ended up listening to it on my commute to and from work. And I'm sad to say I only gave this 3 stars. So the next book I read, I absolutely did not like, and it was 3 of Us by Ella Good. Now, I am all about giving, you know, the benefit of the doubt to people, and I really like to give like certain instances a try. This book is about a girl that falls in love with 2 brothers, and the brothers are identical twins, and they end up being in a throuple, essentially. The boys obviously are not sexually involved with each other, but they are with the same girl, and it's just really odd to me, and I don't like the like quote-unquote incest of it. It's just not my thing. I did not like it. I gave it 2 stars, and that's all I'm going to say about that. The next book that I read was Branded by the Black Wolves by Holly Hutchins. I gave it 3 stars. I kind of got into paranormal romance this year, and another thing that I kind of got into was like menages, and that was, you know, something that I just went off on. It was just crazy. I read a bunch of them, and I'll get into those later, but I only gave it 3 stars. Didn't really like it. I enjoyed the main female character because she was badass bitch, and everyone likes those. So again, great book. I just personally didn't find it that entertaining. So The next book I read was Ruthless King by Maya Hughes, and this is book 1. Oh no, this is book 3 of the Kings of Rittenhouse series. I did not realize it was a series when I started reading it, so it is like it's a hockey romance book, and I did not realize that it was book 3 in the series when I started it. So there is spoilers for the first 2 and the third one, obviously. I did not find it that upsetting that I found out what happened to the other 2 characters, or the other 2 couples. I wasn't really upset about it. So after I read the book by Maya Hughes, I kind of got into a little bit of a reading slump and didn't read for a really long time. And then I found this one particular author that I really liked and read about 12 of her books. So the next group is all by Madison Faye, and they all received 3 or 4 stars. I will go into each of them. But the first one I read was Taking Back His Wife, and I gave that one 4 stars. I read Reclaiming His Wife by Madison Faye again, and I gave that 4 stars. I read Bound to His Bride, gave that 4 stars. Claiming Candy, gave that 4 stars. Get Lucky, 3 stars. Hardcore, 3 stars. Pretty Dirty, 3 stars. Rough Stuff, 3 stars. Trick or Treat, 3 stars. Sharing Samantha, 3 stars. Stealing Valentine, 3 stars. And then while I was in the middle of my Madison Faye kick, I guess you want to say, I did read a book by Alexa Riley, and that is Locked Up Love. I also gave that one 3 stars. And then when I read that one, I went back to Madison Faye and ended up reading a couple more books by her, and that was Dr. O Maker, gave that 3 stars, and then Dr. Baby Maker gave that 3 stars. So overall, Madison Faye is one of those insta-love romance authors that you don't really have to use brain cells to read. I love them. They're quick, easy, fast-paced reads, and I don't think there's a problem with them. None of them were my absolute favorites, and most of them are free on Kindle Unlimited. There are a few that you have to buy if you do want to buy Madison Faye books, but they're only like 99 cents. So I really enjoyed them. They were quick and easy, and I read so many of them in a short amount of time, and I'm not too terribly upset about it. So the next 2 books that I'd read are in the same series, and they are One Night with Him and Fighting for Her, both by K.S. Smith. I did talk about K.S. Smith earlier. These 2 books came out probably back in 2014, maybe 2015. Don't really remember what year they came out, but it was a while ago. And so I read them back then and didn't realize that there was actually a second book in the series. So I read the first one over again and then read the second one because I really wanted to read it. So I really enjoyed those, gave both of those 5 stars. Highly recommend K.S. Smith if you have not read her any of her books. Please do. They're really great. After that, this is where I'm telling you I got into the little bit of the paranormal romance, and that was The Barely Controlled Grizzly by Jenica Snow. This one is about a bear shifter that's trying to find his mate, and once he does find his mate, he does not let her go. And I gave it 4 stars. It was cute, not one of my favorites, but still a fun read. After that, I read Sophie by Kelsey Ray, and I do believe this is part of a series. Let me see which book it is. So Sophie is book 5 in the Signature Sweetheart series. I didn't read the other ones, wasn't really interested in them. Gave this one 3 stars. Very, it's like it wants you to like the male character, and I just had so many problems with him. I did not like it. So and then after that, I did read Junk Mail by Kendall Ryan. Gave that 5 stars. I absolutely loved that book. Kendall Ryan is one of those authors that I will just pick up and devour her books. And Junk Mail is about a guy who accidentally sent a picture of his junk to this girl, and he finds out that this lady is actually his boss. So it was interesting. I really enjoyed it and highly recommend it. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and it's so funny. Oh my gosh. And then the next 3 books are all by the same author. They are in a series. Recently, I've been reading a lot more Kendall Ryan, Lauren Blakely type books. And so these 3 are by Lauren Blakely, and that's Best Laid Plans, The Feel Good Factor, and Nobody Does It Better. They are in the same series. The main female characters are pretty badass. Some of them are like, I think one of them is like really, really quiet, and she's a librarian and she falls in love with a first responder. The thing with these 3 books, they are all involving first responders. So firefighters, paramedics, and police officers are all involved in these, and I really, really enjoyed it. Gave all of them 4 stars. Highly recommend, and I will probably reread in the future, but I don't know when. So the next book I read was by Kylie Scott, and that was Repeat. This one I gave 5 stars. This one is about a girl who gets attacked and has amnesia, and the only thing that she remembers is like getting a tattoo, and the tattoo artist was actually her ex-boyfriend. So she has to go through the process of relearning who she was, and finding herself again. But it's a really good book. I really enjoyed it, and highly recommend, like all of these books. The next one that I read, I don't even remember reading it, but that's Come Back to Bed by Kaylee Loring. I gave it 5 stars. Apparently I really enjoyed it, but I couldn't tell you anything about it because I don't remember. That could have been one of those books where I was in between really great books and I just didn't remember what it was about. So I'll probably have to go back, read the synopsis, and really determine if it was a 5-star read, because I would really I would hope that if it was a 5-star read that I would remember it. But anyway, and then the next book I read was Accidental Husband by Crystal Caswell. This one is a friends to lovers type book. I loved the 2 main characters. The 2 main characters are best friends. They have been for years. And then one night in Vegas, they accidentally get married. That's not a spoiler. That is literally in the synopsis. And I loved this book. It was so good. Gave it 4 stars. After that, I read The Newly Feds by Logan Chance. Now, if you haven't been here a while, then you wouldn't know that I am obsessed with NCIS Los Angeles, and I love the relationship between Deeks and Kenzie of that show. And when I read the synopsis for The Newly Feds, it reminded me of an episode in season 3 where Deeks and Kenzie actually had to pretend to be a married couple. And that's basically the synopsis of this book. And I loved it, and it was so good. Gave it 5 stars. Highly recommend it to anybody who is a fan of the NCIS franchise. Loved this book. The next book I read was Marcus by Kelsey Ray, and this is book 6 in the Sweethearts, the Signature Sweetheart series. Gave it 4 stars. Again, cutesy, fast-paced read. It does show what happened in book 5, so they are kind of obviously they are a series and they just go from whenever to whenever. So I really liked it. Probably won't continue on with the rest of the series, but I did like this one. Gave it 4 stars. The next one was a reread for me. I absolutely love this series, and that is Building Our Love by Crystal Perkins. This is actually book 2 in the Griffin Brothers series. The first one being Gaming for Love, I believe that's the first one. One was Gaming for Love. I am currently reading book 3. I don't remember the name of it though. Creating a Love. Just looking it up now. So currently on book 3 of that, and I'm trying to read all of them as they are very fast paced, and Crystal Perkins is one of my favorite authors. Highly recommend her, guys. If you guys are really wanting to read fast-paced contemporary books, this is one of those. There are some very steamy scenes in it, just to let you know, but they are very, very good. So the next group of books that I read, this is where it gets into me reading menages. I was trying to find some good ones, and I did. And all of these are by Jane Ryland. I did read the first 4 books, but the 4th book I read later on. So the first three are Wild Ride, Slow Ride, and Hard Ride. The first book, or basically the whole series, is about these motorcycle mechanics and them falling in love and them being into polyamorous relationships. Most of them are 2 men and 1 woman, and everyone is involved with each other. The men are in love with each other, and then the men are in love with the woman. So it is a true 100% polyamorous relationship, menage, and they're very good. If that is what you're into, I highly recommend these. Now, some of Jane's other books I have read this year, and I'll get into those later. I didn't necessarily like, but this particular series itself is so good, and I highly recommend these. I think I did a review on a couple of other books that Jane Ryland did write, and I think I did that for the Newts readathon last year. So check that out. It was interesting. After that, I read The Friend Zone by Sarah Wilson. I want to say it's Sarah. It might be Soraya Wilson. Gave that book 4 stars. This is a friends to lovers type novel. It is about a guy who gets a second chance at being on a football team in college, and him trying not to fall in love with the coach's daughter. I really liked it. Gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read was My Favorite Mistake by Sarah J. Brooks. Didn't really like this. I had a lot of problems with it. There was basically it was a bunch of insta-love, and I did not like the fact that the guy was keeping secrets from the main girl character. I gave this book 3 stars. It is like a marriage of convenience type book. Didn't really like it. After that, I read Pretty Reckless by L.J. Shen. This was my first L.J. Shen book that I've read. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. It was so good. And I believe this is the first book in like the second generation of the original books that L.J. Shen came out with. It was like a while ago that, like the main books that happened, this second half is about their kids. So really good. Gave it 5 stars. And when I found out that there was like a first part to this, I did read the main girl character's parents' book. Gave it 3 stars. Did not like it as much. But it was interesting, and there was a lot of steamy scenes in there, let me just tell you. After that, this is where I started on my Newts readathon, and I ended up reading a book called Renata Vitali by Parker S. Huntington. I gave this 4 stars. This is a mafia romance novel, highly recommend. After that, I ended up reading a physical book. Oh my gosh, we haven't gotten to one of those in a long time. And that book was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. Y'all, this has been a long time coming, and I actually ended up finishing it this year, which I'm very surprised about. 5 out of 5 stars. This was the longest book I read. This is 984 pages, and it was just so good. Oh my gosh. This was a great conclusion to this. It did leave it open if there was another book in this universe. I really want there to be. I don't know if she will come out with another book in this series, but if she does, I will be waiting with open arms, because this book was so good and it was such a good conclusion to the series. So then, while I was listening to that during the Newts readathon, I read King Cobra and Mustang Sally by Jane Ryland. Gave these both 3 stars. Did not like them. I loved the first one. The second one, I loved up to a certain point, and then it got real weird at like a certain point, and I just couldn't get past it, and I ended up skimming the rest of the book, and I'm very much glad that I don't have to read it anymore. But I ended up giving those 3 stars. And then after that, I read another physical book, and that was Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. Y'all, I inhale read this book. I read it in like 2 sittings, but it was all in the same day. So I ended up reading like 100 pages of it, and then I went and did something, like I think I went grocery shopping or something, and then I came back and then devoured the rest of it. I ended up staying up really late to finish reading this, and I absolutely loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. I have not read the second book in the series yet. I don't know if I'm going to, but this first one, really good. And I'm very, very excited that I've read it. And I will be getting to more Colleen Hoover books this year. So there's that. Next, I started a little bit of a risque kind of book, and this one was called Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ricci. This book is about a girl who is a sex addict and a guy that is an alcohol addict, and they are kind of in like this fake relationship, so to speak, in the beginning of the book, and then it takes a turn in the middle, and they actually do become like a full-on couple, and they rely on each other for their addictions, and it's very mind-opening, and like it's, I don't know, it's just really good. I read the first couple of books. There are like 6 books in this series, but I did read the first 2, and I really, really enjoyed them. So the next book I read was Damiano De Luca, and this is actually book 2 after Renata Vitali, and this is just the male perspective basically, and it was really good. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite, but it was okay. I ended up giving that 4 stars as well. The next book I read was another physical copy of something, and it was Revived by Samantha Toll. I did end up giving this 5 stars. It was very good. The only problem that I had with it was that she, like, so the back of the book, it tells you that the main girl character is like a therapist, and then the guy character was in a very horrific accident. This is actually book 2 of the Rev series, so you do have to read the first one to kind of understand what's going on with the second one. So this book here, Revived, is about Lorenzo, and Leandro, I'm sorry. This one is about Leandro, and he gets in a really bad car accident, and he has kind of like PTSD from that, and so he can't really get in a car, so he ends up going to a therapist to help him with his fear and anxiety, and along the way he ends up falling in love with his therapist, and she, you know, is very one-track minded. She doesn't want to she doesn't want to jeopardize her medical license by falling in love with a patient, and so it's a very good book. Just at the end, I wasn't a fan of it because, like, literally you could kind of see it coming, but other than that, I really enjoyed it. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Samantha Toll is one of my auto-buy authors, and I will literally buy anything that she puts out. So that, gotta love it. Hey guys, so sorry for this short little cut in here, but as I'm editing this video, I realized that my camera cut off for a lot longer than I thought it did, and I actually missed talking about 10 books. So I figured that was a little too much to put in on a little slide of information while I was editing my video. So I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about those books now. So in the last clip, I realized the last book I talked about was Revived by Samantha Toll. So after I read that, I ended up reading All the Way by Kristen Proby. This is book 1 in the Romancing Manhattan series that she has coming out. Or it's obviously out already, but this is the first one in that series. I did end up giving it 3 stars. Wasn't my favorite. It is about a girl who is a Tony Award-winning actress. She's a very talented dancer. She is just renowned for her acting and dancing abilities, and she gets in a very bad accident. She actually falls out of a window, escaping from a fire, and she breaks both of her legs. So she goes to her parents' Martha Vineyard house, and she recovers there. So It was a cute book, not my favorite. I did end up giving it 3 stars. After that, I listened to an audiobook, and that was It's Not What It Looks Like by Molly Burke. If you're not familiar with who Molly Burke is a blind YouTuber here, and she did write a little memoir, and it was about how she is losing her eyesight, and it was very informative and very interesting to see how people with vision impairment don't really let that get them down. They do their best and they thrive based on that. So it was really, really good. I gave it 4 stars. It was a little over 3 hours of an audiobook, and I highly enjoyed it. The next book I ended up picking up was My Brother's Billionaire Best Friend by Max Monroe. It's basically what it sounds like. A billionaire falls in love with his best friend's little sister. And it's crazy. It was really cute. I highly enjoyed it. It is about a guy who goes into his friend's flower shop, or his friend's parents own a flower shop, and he goes in and buys a bouquet, and the girl at the desk is actually his best friend's little sister, but he doesn't recognize her because she doesn't look the same as she used to. She's actually grown up to be a very beautiful woman, and he doesn't know. So he ends up finding it out, and it just blossoms from there, and it was very, very cute read. Gave it 4 stars. After that, I did pick up a little bit of a heavier book, and that is The Rebel of Raleigh High by Callie Hart. I did end up giving this book 4 stars. It does have a sequel, and I don't plan on picking it up. This book does have very heavy trigger warnings for sexual assault and school shootings. So if you are easily triggered by them, I do not recommend this book. It does hit those heavy topics. It was good. It was just not something that I highly recommend to everybody. So it was 4 stars, and just keep in mind those trigger warnings. After that, I did end up picking up another book by Helena Hunting, and that was Handle with Care. And I do believe this is book 5. Book 4 or book 5. It's book 5 of the Shocking Up series that goes on. Really good. I love Helena Hunting. One of my favorite books by her is Pucked. It is a hockey romance, and obviously I'm a big hockey fan, so I really like reading hockey romance novels, and Helena Hunting's books just make me laugh. I love them so much. So this book I picked up is kind of getting into, like I said earlier, my paranormal romance phase, and I did end up picking up a book called Alpha Geek Zeke, and this is by Millie Taden, which I do reference a lot in the next coming minutes, but I read a lot of her books this year, and I highly enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. After that, I picked up a book called The Bear's Chosen Mate by Vivian Arendt. Very good book. It is about a guy who is a polar bear shifter, and he falls in love with his best friend, and his best friend is a fox shifter, and it's the first book in the Borealis Gems series. They are very good. I read the second book as well, which I'll talk about here in a minute, but I loved it. Gave it 4 stars. After that, I did end up picking up another Millie Taden book, and that was Alpha Geek. And this is actually the first one, so I didn't realize it was a series, so I ended up reading Alpha Geek Zeke first and then Alpha Geek, which it doesn't really give you like too many spoilers. It's just like the background of what happened to the guy you don't really know. So it was good. Gave it 4 stars. After that, I ended up picking up a book called Alpha Bully. This one is a werewolf shifter book. I gave it 4 stars. Not my favorite. It is they are high schoolers, so be aware of that. But I don't think I'll continue on with the series. It was good. It is by Renee Rose, just for those of people who are interested in werewolf shifter books. It was good. It just wasn't my favorite. After that, I ended up picking the first book up in the Promise Me series. I don't remember what the name of it is. Hold on. The Diamond in the Rough. I'm sorry. So I ended up picking up the first book in the Diamond in the Rough series, and that was Play With Me by Rebel Heart. Very good. I gave it 4 stars. There are 4 books in the series, which I did not realize that going into it, because the first book was the only one that was out, or the first or second book were the only ones that were out. And they do follow the same characters. It's just this like story is so drawn out that I just don't find it that entertaining anymore. So I read the first couple of books. I don't think I'm going to finish the series. I did end up skimming like the second book because it just wasn't grabbing my attention as much as I wanted it to. But overall, it was a great book and I gave it 4 stars. And then the last book of this little section, I did end up talking about it in the next clip you're about to see, but I'm going to go over it a little bit more here because I don't know how much I talked about it in the last clip. But that was Joyride by Jane Ryland, and this is book 4 of the Power Ride series or Hot Ride series. That's the one with the motorcycle mechanics. So this one was very good. Again, this was heavily 2 males and 1 female, and both of the males were actually very much in love with each other as well as they were with the girl. This one was a little bit different because in the synopsis you find out that the woman actually has a baby and she doesn't know who the father of the child is, and so it's one of the 2 guys, and that's one of the big problems that arises as you're reading this book. But it's actually very good, very entertaining. I did end up giving it 4 stars. So, all right, y'all, that is this little clip. I'm going to go edit this and finish it, hopefully get it up today. But I wanted to like just pop in here and say that there was a lot more books than I thought when I was filming this on Saturday. So if I'm sounding like a man, I'm sorry. I have very bad allergies going on right now and it's not the funnest time. So with that being said, I'm going to get back to editing and finish this video. Okay, sorry if there's an angle change, but my camera decided it wanted to shut off. So I don't really remember where we were at. I think I was talking about Joyride. Gave it 4 stars. Again, this is about a menage, 2 men and a female. Highly, highly enjoyed it. Next one I read was Teacher's Pet Wolf by Katie Wilde. Again, back into the paranormal romance phase, and I read this one. I gave it 4 stars. This is about a girl who is bitten by a werewolf and she does not like who she is becoming, and then she meets this other guy who I believe is a bear shifter, and he kind of tames her wolf. So really loved it, highly recommend, and I believe there is more in the series, but none of it's come out yet, so I'm really wanting it to, but it was good. Next book I read is probably one of my favorite books of the year, and this is The Engagement Gift by Lauren Blakely. Now, Lauren Blakely has stepped up her game. Now, this series is I think it's like the After Dark series, and this one is about a man and a woman who are engaged to be married. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't remember if I told you the name of it, but it's called The Engagement Gift by Lauren Blakely. Gave it 4 stars, but this is about a man and a woman who are engaged to be married, and his #1 goal in life is to fulfill every sexual fantasy that his fiance has, and the one fantasy that she has that she hasn't been willing to tell her fiance is that she wants to have a threesome with another man. And he knows this, but he's trying to get her to admit it. So that's basically what this book is about. It's very good. Gave it 4 stars, and it is very steamy, y'all. This has very explicit sex scenes, and they are very, very detailed and graphic. I'm just letting you know. And then the next couple of books that I got into were also by Millie Taden, and this is like the beginning of the paranormal dating agency books that she has, and I believe this is book 2 and book 3, and this is Geek Bearing Gifts and Her Perfect Match, and I believe that is 2 and 3 respectively. These are good. They're quick reads. I gave Geek Bearing Gifts 3 stars, and I gave Her Perfect Match 4 stars. Each book has a different shifter in the series. or in the book, obviously. So the first one would be the bear, and then the second one, her perfect match is a tiger. So they're actually very interesting. I don't necessarily know if I will be continuing, but I do have, I think I've read up to book 7. I like them. Not my favorite of the year, but anyway. So the next book I read was Trapping Her by Aurora Rose Reynolds. I gave this 3 stars. This was the shortest book that I read this year at 63 pages. Probably won't continue on with the series. It was okay. Didn't really interest me. I tried it out because somebody told me about it. But other than that, probably not going to read the rest of it. And then after that, I did read a new release that just came out, and this is Hot to the Touch by J.C. Burton. J.C. Burton is one of my favorite authors. This one is about a fireman. Gave it 4 stars. The next book I read is a reread, and that is Music of the Heart by Katie Ashley. Gave this one 5 stars. This is also a rock star romance novel. And then we go back to Millie Taden, and I read book 4, 5, and 6, and that is Curve 'Em Right, The Lion King, and Tall, Dark, and Panther. I gave Curve 'Em Right 4 stars, The Lion King 4 stars, and Tall, Dark, and Panther I also gave 4 stars. Very interesting. They all have, like, the one that's, the only thing that's, like, really in common with them is that the main female characters are all plus size, so they're actually very interesting, and as a plus size woman myself, seeing myself represented in books like this is very interesting. After that, I read book 2 of the Addicted to You series, and that is Ricochet by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I also gave this book 4 stars. I loved the continuation of it. I will probably read the rest of the series later on, just probably not right now. And then the last book that I read by Millie Taden this year was book 7 of the Paranormal Dating Agency series, and that was There's Snow Escape, and this is about 2 snow leopards. After that, I read book 2 of the series by Vivian Arden, and that is The Bear's Fated Mate. I don't know if the series has a name. The Borderless Bears, sorry. This one was probably my favorite out of the first 2 that are already out, and I did give it 5 stars. The next 3 books that I ended up reading this year are part of the Locker Room series by Megan Quinn. I don't know what the name of it. I don't think there is like an actual name for this series, but I read The Locker Room, The Dugout, and The Lineup, all by Megan Quinn. That gave them all 4 stars. They were very good. They are all baseball romance books. Highly recommend. And then we're getting to the end, y'all. If y'all stuck around for this, y'all are crazy. But the next book I read was Asher Black by Parker S. Huntington. This was a very quick read. I very much enjoyed it. It is a mafia romance type book, so if that is something that you are interested in, I highly recommend this one. I also gave it 4 stars. And then probably my favorite book of the year, you guys. It was my last read of 2019, and that is The Virgin Gift, and this is book 2 of the After Dark standalone series by Lauren Blakely. Now it says like, yeah, it's a standalone, but it's part of a series. You can read them individually. You don't have to read them in order, but characters from the first book do show up in the second. So this book, you guys, I loved it so much that I bought it in physical copy, and I am getting it on Monday. I am so excited. It was so good. This book is about a girl who is a boudoir photographer and a guy who runs his own like production company. And they are neighbors in the same condo complex type thing. And one day the guy, his apartment is being painted, so he ends up staying a couple of days with his neighbor, who is the photographer, and he finds a list of things that she wants to do sexually, and it's very good. Y'all, I have read some steamy books in my lifetime, but this one takes the cake. Like, top of the top. It surpasses 50 Shades of Grey for me as far as like the amount of sex in one book. Holy crap. I need to find myself an Adam because he is like the perfect book boyfriend. Like, oh my. So anyway, y'all, that is my massive pile of 80 books that I ended up reading this year. There are a couple that I did end up rereading that I did not put in my like books read because I really only skimmed them, and that was because I needed to kind of remember what happened. And I did reread Revved in order to read Revived, so I read kind of the main points of what happened to Leandro in the second book. I had to refresh my memory on this. And then this book, I reread it every year. It should be no surprise. It's my favorite Samantha Toll book, and that is The Mighty Storm. This is a rock star romance book. Love this book to death. It is my absolute favorite book, and I will reread it till the end of time. But I don't really include both of those books because I do reread them so often, so they're not really a, like, new addition to the books that I've read. So, y'all, that is my 2019 wrap up. That is a lot of books, and editing this is going to be a pain in the ass. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. There's going to be a lot more videos coming out this year because I want to get back into the swing of things and start doing more of these types of videos. And I love doing YouTube. It's just I have not had any time. And with my physical therapy starting next week, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So anyway, y'all, I have a lot of editing to do. Plus, I'm going to be editing or pre-recording some more videos today. And I think that's it, y'all. That is a lot for 2019. That's 80 books, and I really hope that I can surpass that this year. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know some of the books that you guys read this year. And if you're new here, hi, my name's Lindsay. Let me know your name down in the comments below. And if you like this content, please subscribe and, you know, like the video, and hopefully this will be the year that I actually get my shit together. So with that being said, you guys, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!